Hello, football fans, NFL fans. We've reached the end of the week again. It's Saturday. Got through another successful work week, and it's time for another episode of Jocks and Pigskins. This is your host, Tom Pollen, along with Wanda Weidman. And go ahead, say hello.
Hello.
Have a full show for you this week, as we usually do. Take a quick look back at the Thursday night Dallas Cowboys at New York Giants game. Wanda has a few observations about Dak Prescott, and I want to look at some of the coaching decisions that really, I don't know, just were a question mark to me in that game. Just didn't understand. I didn't think were good strategy and want to go into it because you got two NFL coaches, longtime NFL coaches, and I can't believe some of them did not foresee or did not think forward to some of the possible consequences of their actions. So go into that, and then we're going to take a look at the running game, looking at the Falcons, of course, and how they've been running the ball so far this year and what they could do better, and around the NFL, because it seems like the running game is gaining traction again for, as far as being a major part of a team's strategy. Instead of piling up passing yards and seeing if you could outthrow your opponent. So we'll go into that in a little bit. We're also going to have picks, straight up picks between me and Wanda. Wanda's going to give you a few picks for this weekend, what she thinks is going to happen in week 4 with the rest of the NFL slate. And Nostradamus will be back. We'll be here with your best bets for your week 4 action. Last 2 weeks, Nostradamus is 7-3 straight up. And last 3 weeks, Nostradamus is 7-3 straight up, 5-4 against the spread. Would be a bet against the spread. I actually was 2-2 against the spread in my article on football from A to Z, and had a couple of different best bets, but I will stick with the best bets I gave you here on Saturday. I gave you the Titans actually making things close against the Packers, if not winning. And man, is Will Levis bad. My God.
Yeah.
Horrible. So, but, I've been fairly successful this year, so hang around for the end. I will give you some picks that you can take to the bank. Let's put it that way.
Awesome.
Last Thursday night, Cowboys at Giants, and not the NFL at its best, either action-wise or coaching-wise, in my opinion. And we'll go into that. First half was just, penalty filled. Even Al Michaels was making jokes about it at the end of the half. Just horrible. And to me, penalties penalties are a reflection of coaching.
Right.
And it comes down to discipline. If you're not disciplined, you're going to commit a lot of penalties, and both teams did. And I think that reflects on the head coaches of both teams, Brian Daboll and Mike McCarthy. But Wanda, you've been looking at Dak Prescott the last couple of weeks, and you have a couple of observations that seem to have been striking you, and I think we're on display again Thursday night.
Yeah, Dak normally starts off pretty hot when he plays, and this season he seems to be very off And I'm not sure what is going on with Dak there, but just in the just this season alone, just in the start, the 4 games he's played, or the 3 games at this point, we'll go into 4, but he's 96 of 149. And that's a huge difference in where his completion percentage is. So he's been missing a lot of his short throws, trying to get his passing game, and you can tell by his presence in the pocket something's off. So even though he's thrown some balls down the field to CeeDee Lamb, but he's missed a few. His on targets in the pocket, in the breadbasket, isn't where it should be in some cases. So his sack percentage, he's had 10 sacks this year already. Yeah. So he's trying to obviously make plays, holding the ball too long, but something is not clicking with him this season, whether it's the absence of Kellen Moore, and you've got Mike McCarthy calling, which, to be honest, I thought would be a huge mistake. And it's showing. It's actually showing, and he is regressing from. Kellen Moore was perfect for Dak.
Yes, he was.
And really doing well there. And I think taking him out, which is really interesting about these OCs, once you have a quarterback that is just loving his OC, and they mesh together, you get a beautiful, season of play. And they become very attached to that OC. So here you have Prescott, and the difference between Moore and McCarthy calling the plays. I think what is very telling is the involvement of the OC with the quarterback. So if McCarthy is trying to head coach, his ability to call plays is affecting, and it's affecting Prescott. And you're going to see that the remainder of the season. So I don't know where it's going to put Prescott this season, as he's already it's not what you want to see with the Cowboys going into the season. He's had, no game-winning drives at all yet, and no comebacks. And
right.
Normally he has those, pretty up there through the season. And then his touchdowns so far, he's had 6 touchdowns this season, which isn't bad per se. But when you look at the scores of of some of these games, you're kind of thinking something is awry, and you have to always look at the offensive coordinator to see what they're doing. And McCarthy just, it was kind of like Matt Nagy when he was with Bears, to be a head coach and call plays, and that was disastrous.
Right.
And you're kind of you're seeing the same pattern here, and McCarthy should not have taken over the play calling. I think it's detrimental to Dak.
Oh, it's always a mistake. We saw that in Atlanta the last couple of seasons, 3 seasons with Arthur Smith as the head coach, and also the lead play caller, and it doesn't mix. The head coach has more responsibilities, and he can't pay attention to everything, and it gets frustrating that way. I looked up a stat as you were talking about Prescott and his accuracy on Pro Football Reference. And by the way, if you're looking for anything statistical, ProFootballReference.com is the spot.
That's right.
They have been for over the last 10, 12 years. And I always go to them. But they have advanced passing. They have him for 149 attempts, 22 bad throws,
Yeah.
a 15% bad throw percentage, which is just terrible. On target, 83 balls, 56 and a half on target percentage. So a little over, close to half of his passes are off target. And, that's just a huge thing. That's something you can't make up. How big of a change do you think it's been without having Tony Pollard as his running back? Somebody who can maybe ease that pass rush a bit, take the pressure off, and gain yards on the ground, which, by the way, is where the rest of this show is going to be going, is talking about the importance of the running game.
Yeah, and when you have no running backs that are prolific for the Cowboys, it's by committee at this point, and you're not seeing any. I was shocked, really shocked, that they went back with Zeke and brought Zeke in.
Yeah,
and
so am I.
And Zeke has been in a decline for years, and he hasn't helped at this point with the Cowboys. Deuce Vaughn is trying to, but he's not yet at that point. And Dowdle is at least being used a little bit, but you really need a power back there. Pollard was great for them, and then he's gone now and off to another team. So they didn't pay attention. They gave no importance. Jerry Jones gave no importance to the running game.
Nope.
And as anybody knows, you need the run game to open up that pass game, and it is absolutely destroying the ability of Dak being able to do what he does best.
Right. And if you look at what Pollard did for this team, he had 55 targets out of the backfield. Mm-hmm. So he was a weapon in the passing game as well as the running game, which is huge for a running back. It just makes so much of a difference. And part of the resurgence of running backs is they're getting use in the passing game. They're not just your ground pound 3 yards and a cloud of dust anymore. It's they're becoming important as an overall part of the offense, but the Cowboys don't have that. And other than CeeDee Lamb, I don't think Dak really has another target he can count on in that offense.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't want to count on, because bad throws, he's not confident in throwing to some of these other guys.
Yeah.
So, by the way, Brian is here. Brian Friedman gives us a hello. And
hi, Brian.
Also wanted to point out that, Wanda, you said it would be Caleb Williams to throw first rookie TD and followed with Williams to Odunze and says, we nailed it. So,
that's it. Thanks.
Yeah. And he got the Jaden Daniels TD pass last week. So nailed that too.
That's right.
Jaden Daniels,
that's right.
Man, he had a breakout week last week.
He sure did.
So, but yeah, I agree. It's rough on Prescott when he's not confident, and I don't think he's confident.
Yeah, I'm not. You could tell. You could see it in his facial expressions. Just not, almost like he's lost in where he feels comfortable in what he's doing. And I think without those particular players and the trust in this OC, knowing what he's doing, I think that's really affected him at this point. Because I just don't see Mike McCarthy as that, that guy that's going to come alongside, his QB in that way. And that that's not what he's going to get from him. And So I think it's really going to hinder him this season if it's not fixed in some way.
I agree. We'll see how things go down the line. I wanted to look at Thursday night, though, because, man, there was some questionable coaching. To me,
yeah,
I'm two veteran NFL guys, but my God, don't you guys think of strategy? Don't you ever think about the consequences of what you're trying to do? Again, end of the first half, to me, the Cowboys punt. There's a penalty on the Cowboys. Daboll takes the penalty at the receiving point and downs the football. Why aren't you forcing the Cowboys to punt again? And trying to get a mistake, a shank, a block punt, a big return, doing something to excite your team, to doing anything to gather some momentum going into the locker room. He just took the knee and went back to the locker room, and that was it. And that just irritates the hell out of me when coaches are willing to do that instead of trying to make something happen. You only get a certain amount of time to make something happen on the football field.
Right.
And I just, it irritates me to no end. I've been seeing it for years, but, Daboll, you basically just, wound down the first half without a chance of anything trying to happen.
Well, that's obviously a head coach that is just offensive minded. So he wasn't thinking special teams. He wasn't thinking defense. He was just thinking, we'll just start over on the other side, and thinking offense instead of, an entire team.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. 4th and goal at the 3. Daboll settles for the field goal. And I don't know if he was thinking, having a flashback to that Washington game when he got beat by 7 field goals. But at some point, you have to put the ball in the end zone. And I think that was the only red zone opportunity the Giants had at that point. And they were aggressive on 4th down all through the game, except for that one time. And they settled for the field goal, and it made a difference in the point differential. So again, the worst thing that can happen is you get stopped short, but you pin the Cowboys back in their own end. Maybe you get the ball back with good field position if your defense does its job. That's the thing. Take your chance at the end zone. It turned out to be their only chance at the end zone all game. You can't win by field goals alone.
But that's that coach is trusting in the offense. He's not thinking about. He's not thinking about the entire game. His vision is only this way, and he needs to complete. That's a head coach. Has to look at all. It's all three phases.
Yeah, and that's why a head coach shouldn't call
He's
plays.
missing all 3 phases.
He's got to be he's got to be thinking of the entire team, not just his unit. And it just frustrates me because, ended up costing the Giants at the end of the game. They weren't closer. They couldn't try to get in the field goal range and tie the game up or, win the game, depending on how the points fell. Instead, you lost an opportunity, and missed opportunities, will cost you as much as a mistake or missing on a play. You missed your opportunity. Right. Brian brings up a pseudo face mask that in the Giants game, called face mask on the wrong team. He cost the Giants 30 yards. And that's, again, the
Yeah.
officials,
Oh,
the
they're
officials.
horrible this year. So far, they're just horrible.
Yeah.
It's just been awful.
I don't know if the NFL is giving them too much to look at. Because they keep adding penalties every year. You got the illegal formation penalties these days. And
right.
It's like, do the officials have too much to look at that they're missing some of these penalties? Or calling them when they're not there? Because you get that too.
So, I mean, that was to call it on the wrong team and just be able to like confer with the other, refs of like, okay, did we call it right? Or even look at it, for crying out loud, and just say, okay, why would you call it on the wrong team? I mean, it was so blatant. It's just like, yeah. And then they come back later and say, oh yeah, we made a mistake. Well, it's too late.
Right. The loss is still there. We can't replay the game. Can't replay the game from that point. But Ryan, you're right. That should be reversible. It should be. They'll use replay for 90% of the game, but there's still portions of the game where they won't use it, and it's frustrating how they keep moving forward with replay, but they keep pulling back too, because there's certain things you can't look at with instant replay, and it's a frustrating thing. Yeah. But down to the final minute, and McCarthy got away with it. But for one thing, he sends out Aubrey for the almost automatic field goal from the 40, 50-yard field goal. But he's got timeouts in his pocket. He doesn't call a timeout to let Aubrey, take a breath, and because this is a key moment in the game. It only puts you up by 8, but it does force the Giants to drive the length of the field if they want to go anywhere, But, they didn't call the timeout. Aubrey rushed it, and he missed wide right. It gave the Giants a chance of going on offense from their 41, and even with 28 seconds left, that's a lot closer to the end zone than, the 30-yard line. Or, if he had run a play to just drag off a little bit more time and you turn it over on downs, well, so what? You still, I know it was 4th and 8, but you're still making the Giants drive farther for a game-winning score. Instead of starting them out from the 41 and you only got 59 yards to go, which, a good quarterback can do that. Maybe he just didn't have any. Maybe he didn't think Daniel Jones could do that to him. Of course, Malik Neighbors was out of the game at that point.
Right.
But,
and so now you're believing and putting your trust in the rookie to win the game for you, instead of you being able to put your trust in a quarterback that should win the game for you, which just says a lot about Dable and his support of Jones, because Dable really wanted a quarterback in this draft. He really wanted one, but he didn't say it, and he knew that he was stuck with it because of the amount of money that they sunk into Jones. So now it's like, okay, let me see what I can work with and try to make something with him. And obviously the experiment is not working because you're not getting what, you really want.
Right. But even then, if send Anger out there to do a pooch punt and you got, the Giants pinned back again.
Right.
There's a lot of ways McCarthy could have played it, but he played it, to me, in the worst way, by trying the field goal, because you never know. I mean, Aubrey is great, and as I tweeted during the game, I think Aubrey is kind of challenging Justin Tucker for that for the man
Oh
as far
yeah.
as place kickers in the
Yeah.
NFL.
Yeah.
Hey, he made a 60-yard field goal. It was like it was nothing for him.
Yeah. And
Now,
Tucker's declining. So
yeah,
that's why I think it's funny. Yeah.
right. Tucker's coming apart. So let's go to our topic, though. Topic 2, and committing to the run successfully. And it seems like a lot of winning teams, we're not seeing a lot of 300-yard passing games. As a matter of fact, through the first game through the first game of week 4, we've seen 8 300-yard passing games, which is, I don't know about you, but that surprised the hell out of me. That quarterbacks, aren't picking up a lot of yards through the air. I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, you had Rodgers, Rivers, Stafford. All of them were tossing the football for 4,000 yards plus a season, and generating all this offense. And it seems like they've taken the air out of the football, but the running game seems to be taking more of emphasis. And of those 8 games over 300 passing yards, teams are 3-5. They're not winning those games. They're winning the game when they can run for about 4.5 to 5.0 minimum yards per attempt and making something happen. And I know, again, let's see. You brought up the Cowboys with no true downhill running back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Elliott's not it. Vaughn's not it. Dowdle might be a possibility if they commit more to the run, but it was non-existent Thursday night, and we're seeing that throughout the league. But when you perfect example to see how it helps of having that perfect downhill is the Phillies when they got Barkley. I mean, Barkley's
you mean the Eagles? You got
the
baseball on the
Eagles,
brain.
yeah. And how they were able to get Barkley to open that up. And the more that they're running, it just opened everything up. And you're seeing that. I'm going to see the same thing with the Falcons. If the Falcons can do the same thing, and run the ball more effectively, I think that's going to open up the game. Using Bijan more because he's a powerful back. So to use him more and not hold him back, he's the key in opening up that pass game to free up what Cousins is holding back. He can throw more. I think that would be perfect. And he's on pace for that if they can continue to use those power backs to open up that run game. But you're just not seeing that. You're seeing, look at the other example are the Ravens with Derrick Henry and how he's helped that in the same way. So these power backs are pushing that that defense back farther, opening it up, and then allowing them to now, they've got to either make a choice of stopping the run. And as they do that, now it opens up the passing game. Now you've now cut that field in half. And so I think this is where the teams are lacking. And you're seeing that with the Cowboys. You're seeing that with Cincinnati and how that passing is horrible because they have no run game. There's nothing to open it up. So you're seeing that with the teams that's the same with the Bears and Caleb Williams throwing for 52 passes. I mean, that's ridiculous. 52. And because you're not using the run game, you're not using the backs that you have to open that up. do that, and you're going to have a winning season. You don't do that, it's going to go downhill.
Yeah. Well, it's
No
great
pun
to
intended.
see Mad Mike in the audience today. Mike, it's great to see you, and always enjoy having you here and seeing you on your channel. Hopefully, it will continue. In my opinion, it's largely due to the fact defensive coordinators are selling out to stop the passing game.
Yeah.
And I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think they have. And, again, adds to that, forcing teams to be more physical. So, but absolutely. But I saw as a matter of fact, the New York Times, I saw when I was looking up running back information, they published an article this morning about veteran running backs and how they've impacted the league this year.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. They were, they must have saw what we were planning to do today. I don't know. But,
Right.
but Saquon Barkley, he's the reason why the Eagles won that game last week against the Saints.
Yeah.
He just powered his way through. He's got 351 yards. He leads the league in yards gained, 4 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara, 285 yards, 4 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs, 278 yards. Jonathan Taylor, 261 yards, 3 touchdowns. So it's amazing how these established running backs are making their presence felt, not just on their teams, but around the league, because you've got to do that to win. And with the Falcons, it's just a matter of Algier is, let's see, Bijan Robinson is only at 4.1 yards per attempt so far this year. And part of that, I think, is the offensive line. But I don't think Robinson's getting a lot of space to be effective in the run game. He seems to get contact right at the line of scrimmage, and he has to fight for a lot of yards.
Right.
And it has to be a frustrating thing because I know the Falcons were relying on him to justify that draft status that, he brought into last season. And, the Falcons made sure to let everybody know that Robinson was going to be a big part of the offense this year. But he really hasn't been, because I don't think he's getting the blocking. And it's rough. And they have to do something about that. And it's going to be rougher this week against the Saints because Drew Dahlman and Caleb McGarry are going to be out.
Yeah.
So, and say what you will about Caleb McGarry and his pass blocking, but he is a very good run blocker. And Drew Dahlman is just, wild man at center. You think back to, Olin Kreutz. Well, Drew Dahlman's, from the same school as far as just being, playing with a chip on his shoulder and everything, and not having him in the game this weekend against the Saints is going to be a rough go. So, but and Mike, agree. Spacing is something I've noticed. Yeah, it's been rough. Mike also said, surprised so many teams are relying on the run game to open up the passing game, and that's it. It's going back, kind of dialing back to the era before the 4,000-yard passers, when running backs made a bigger difference in the NFL, when a solid running game made you a contender and you worked your passing game off of the space that your receivers could get off your running game. I watched some all 22 of the Bears a couple of weeks ago. their receivers aren't getting any spacing. And I'm sure the same thing's going for the Falcons. I haven't watched any all 22 of the Falcons yet, but I would guess that they aren't getting a lot of space in the secondary. They're getting, coverage. They're making Cousins. They're making Williams, the rookie quarterback, kind of thread the needle a little bit or be more accurate. Think about being more accurate. And that can affect a quarterback too, when they have to start thinking about accuracy. It's always more a question of relying on your muscle memory instead of actually having to focus on it in your mind. I'm thinking about trying to be accurate
Right.
instead of see the man throw, in timing. And I think that has a lot to do with Cousins' struggles and he not struggling as bad as he did the first week.
Right.
But he could be doing better. And I think that's hurting Williams. I think Daniels actually had some running game, and because he was able to run, he was able to keep secondaries honest, and he made use of that to Terry McLaurin. So it's that's why he had the big week last week. So we've got to see some better blocking out of this Falcons line for them to be truly successful. I think for them to see the full potential of this offense.
Yeah, exactly. And that'll help them down the line. I think it'll help Cousins feel a lot more comfortable. When Cousins is pressured too much, then he's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And but when he's feels that he has time, then he looks around to see who he can throw to, and then he takes that shot.
Well, he's kind of the old standard of quarterback.
Yeah.
Where he's not a runner. He's not going to give you a lot of scrambling yards.
Right.
And it seems like the NFL is slowly morphing into that new era where your quarterback can actually do some damage with his legs.
Yeah.
And isn't just a statue in the pocket and relying on his offensive line all the time.
Yeah.
These quarterbacks can move. And I think that's going to continue to be the case in the NFL. But, I think it's costing the 49ers too, not having Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, big time.
Because he moves your running game. He moves your passing game. Jordan Mason is running well, but Jordan Mason isn't a back that is going to give you a lot of passing yards either.
Right.
And it's limited what Purdy can do. So, it's just surprising to see so many of these older backs and a lot of offenses that are shooting to get shooting to get these new kind of a new style of offense in the NFL, a new old style of offense in the NFL.
Going back to the old style.
Yeah, kind of where we used to, when we were watching, cut our teeth watching football.
Yeah, exactly.
Got a couple other stats that I had looked up that I hadn't brought up yet. Teams that rushed for over 150 yards so far this season are 17-5. So, and teams that have rushed for 100 yards so far this season are 40-17. So, but that's not saying that you're going to rush, 80 times to get your 100 yards. You got to be effective at it too. Yeah. And that's where the NFL has gone this year. So, Brian said, new offense takes time. Yeah, it does. But, you've had some time. You've had a veteran offensive line coming into the season that should be used to playing together. And they're not showing like they're used to playing together. And again, they're going to have to give Bijan some room. Because if you can get him through the offensive line, he's going to do a lot of damage. And he's going to make things a lot easier for Cousins by picking up those ground yards.
Right.
But he's got to have the chance. So, yeah, again, we're back to where we used to be in the NFL, where it's time you got to run the football successfully. And if you don't, you're not going to win in this league.
Very true.
Go ahead, Wanda.
No, I said it's very true. I mean, that they can use, Bijan also on a few slants just to move up, in receiving if they need to, just to get that motion going. And I think that can open it up as well too. They just need to utilize the big power back that they have in whatever game, whether it's rushing or receiving, use him. And I think it's going to just explode that offense if they once that gets Cousins moving, it's all going to flow.
And that's the thing. They're not using Robinson in the passing game enough.
Yeah.
And, to me, these days, if you're going to be a big running back, and Robinson is capable of being a force in the passing game. The Falcons have not used him that way yet.
Yeah.
So, Zach Robinson, wake up. It's time.
Yeah.
It's time to use Kyle Pitts. Make Kyle Pitts force your secondary, force your linebackers and safeties to make decisions in the secondary. Force your linebackers and safeties to decide who's going to be responsible for him. Run him down the seam. I've been wanting to see the Falcons run Pitts down the seam for 4 years now. Yeah. And they just don't do it.
It drives me nuts.
It's just frustrating.
Yeah, and in 3 weeks he's only gotten 105 yards and 8 touches.
Yeah,
for a tight end, and as good as Pitts is, he needs more. He needs to be utilized much more than that.
When you go to him, he catches the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got to go to him. So, and I think he's getting open. I don't think the problem is Pitts.
Yeah.
It's
the security blanket right now for Cousins is Mooney.
Yeah.
Mooney's a security blanket, and he's been, giving him the ball. But, if you remember the first game with Mooney and that long throw in the last 2 minutes of the game and Cousins got it. Even though Mooney caught it, if you watch the catch, he almost drops this ball. So he's not a long, where he can be trustworthy in those long catches. That's what you want to use Pitts for. Use him, utilize him. He's got great hands, and I think he would be the guy that you want to get, especially when he can jump the ball if he needs to. Just utilize him.
Yeah. Brian brings up that Pitts has a 6% first target share, which is awful.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And Mike also brings up that seems as though quarterbacks been given a strict set of plays to run instead of having the freedom to call. OC's thinking for the quarterbacks. Mike, I think that's been happening for a long time.
Yeah.
All around the league. And I think that's always been a problem. You're not giving your quarterback the ability to think out on the field and make those decisions and, kind of decide maybe that play, needs to run a different way, or we need to. OCs are taking a lot of control out of the quarterback's hands, and I've always hated that. Being an old timer, and I know, Mike, you're an old timer too. You like old style football, and that's what I'm all for. But yeah, I think OCs do take over too much of the game, and it does have an effect on the quarterback. So I do agree with that. Wanda, it is time to get into picks for this weekend.
Okay.
With the Cowboys win, but the Giants covered the +6 this week. So I'm 1-0 against the spread so far this week, if you look at my Twitter feed. But straight up against the spread, Wanda, what do you like this week around the NFL for just winners?
I'm looking at New Orleans and Atlanta. I'm going to say 24-20 with the Saints winning this one. And that's because as much as I'd like Atlanta to win, New Orleans, they have more weapons and their defense is pretty good. And I think with Atlanta's problems up front, it's just going to be a nightmare for Cousins. I kind of look at it close enough. I'm not saying that Cousins won't. I think if they commit to the run, I think they're going to gain some ground against the Saints. So I think that's where you're going to get some of your touchdowns there. But I think it's still the Saints will cover that game. Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Bucks, 27-21 with the Eagles. I think Saquon is going to really have a field day because I just love how they can use him both in the run and passing game. So I think that's just going to open that up. And then the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens, which should be a fun game to watch.
Oh, that's going to be a great one.
I'm hoping it's going to be a fun game to watch. I'm saying 26-23 Bills on this
one.
I'm not trusting the Ravens defense. Ravens defense has been just letting things go, and they've just been all over the field, just very characteristic of the Ravens. And I don't know if they're going to fix that, but I think the Bills are going to be prepared either way, and I'm going to give it to the Bills.
Well, it seems like so far the Ravens defense went to Seattle with Mike McDonald. They really miss him terribly as their defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And you're right. By my stats analysis, they have been awful on defense. And Lamar Jackson has had to practically do everything in that offense.
As usual. Yeah. As usual, poor guy.
It's just been that way.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have the defense to give him the ball in better field position, give him better opportunities to run that offense.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference. So Brian and Mad Mike kind of make the same points. New Orleans has issues up front, and Olave injured a hamstring yesterday. Yeah.
That's good to know. I did not know about Olave.
Yeah. No, I hadn't heard about Olave yet either.
Yeah, so that could change. That could change things. So I don't know. Maybe it'll be close. Maybe it'll be 24-23. I don't know.
Because
either way,
Olave has gotten a majority of the Saints, the touches in the passing game. Rashid Shaheed has done very well. He actually has a larger yardage per reception, but Olave has caught more targets. So it's going to make a big difference in that game. And Mad Mike brings up, can the Saints hold up offensively with O-line injuries? I would agree with you, Mike. That's going to be tough, especially going to be tough on getting Kamara on track.
Right.
And again, we've been talking about the running backs. Alvin Kamara has been one of the top backs in the league this year.
Yeah, now knowing that Olave is out, I would totally lean over to the Falcons squeaking a win here.
Well, I don't know if Olave's out. Let me look that up real quick.
Because hamstrings, if you tweak a hamstring,
yeah,
it's still going to bother you the next day. It's going to affect him.
It is going to affect him.
Yeah.
They have linebacker is out. Olave is questionable, but in the NFL, when they say questionable, it means they're going to play.
Right.
But yeah, tweaking a hamstring is rough. So
but I'm going to stick with
the Saints offense.
I'm going to stick with 24-20 and we'll see what happens. If I'm wrong and the Falcons win, yay Falcons.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Well, the thing is, again, talking about the rushing game, the Saints you can run on 4.5 rushing yards per attempt to get on their defense.
Right.
So you can run on the Saints. They're good at creating havoc in the backfield, which is going to be rough on Cousins. But if they can get Robinson rolling against a depleted Saints front and a Saints front that is not as good at stopping the run as they are at stopping the pass, you might. The Falcons can create opportunities for themselves, but they have to do that. They have to go into the game thinking they can do that. So we'll see how Zach Robinson approaches the game with Kirk Cousins at quarterback and trying to get Bijan Robinson some yards in space.
Right. So,
but yeah, that game is so close that that's a tough call. It really is. Philadelphia against Tampa Bay, that is such a tight game too.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay got blasted at home by the Denver Broncos last week.
I know.
It was just amazing.
That was
Talk
nuts.
about Bo Nix. Just, tore them apart.
Yeah, I don't see Baker being a Bo Nix here, so I don't know if that would work.
So yeah, you never know with the way Saquon Barkley has been running the ball. He's been making a difference. He's the reason why they beat the Saints again, why they beat the Saints last week. So Buffalo versus Baltimore, I like Buffalo basically because Buffalo doesn't have to feed a feature receiver anymore.
Right.
Stephon Diggs is in Houston. Josh Allen has hit 10 receivers week 1, 9 receivers week 2, 10 receivers week 3. He gets the ball to everyone. And they all know they're going to get a chance.
And that's a recipe for success right there.
I mean, he's had one deflection turnover, one bad fumble early in week 1, but no interceptions, no fumbles. Not turning the ball over. And he just loves getting the ball to anybody he wants. He doesn't have to force the ball to Diggs or Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
And made a big change. And so far, Josh Allen is looking like he's having an all-pro season. Of course, it's only 3 games, but
he looks like he's having fun, which is,
yes, he is.
Success right there. So, yeah.
All right. So,
okay, Nostradamus, you tell us what we got here.
Nostradamus, I'm going against the spread here. And I think the Texans win this outright. And I also think they cover the 7.5 against Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars are failing defensively. They're failing with Travis Etienne. Again, not running the ball effectively, not giving Lawrence the opportunities in the passing game that we would like to see. And the problem is favorites by 6 points or more are like 3-12 so far this season. They're not covering that spread. Only a couple of them have covered so far. I think the way the Jaguars are playing in Houston, it's 6.5. So I think Houston covers the 6.5 against Jacksonville Jaguars. Cincinnati Bengals, yeah, they haven't been passing well. The Panthers made a big play last week with Andy Dalton back at quarterback. But, I think the Bengals, they still are a superior team to the Panthers on offense and defense in the passing game. And I think they win and cover -4 against the Panthers. Yeah, it's supposedly a revenge game for Andy Dalton. Well, hasn't he had a few revenge games now? Does it mean anything to him that he's playing Cincinnati?
Yeah, it's not. It's been a long time since he's been there. There's no revenge game. This is just he just needs to. It's more of I'm still relevant in the league. So
yes, it is. But I think Joe Burrow. I mean, they've been close a couple of times. I think Joe Burrow puts it together this week, and the Bengals get a victory over the Panthers. It's a matter of overreacting. You can't overreact to the Panthers losing last week. You can't overreact to how well the Panthers played last week. It's going to settle back in. So I don't like it. Brian thinks Tampa Bay is going to eat up the Eagles this week with Evans and Godwin. So, hey, we'll see.
Hey, never know.
And I am taking the Vikings +2.5 against the Packers. Malik Willis is still supposed to be quarterbacking for the Packers this week. Although there's been hints that Jordan Love might play. I don't know. But that Minnesota defense has just been Brian Flores has that Minnesota defense playing on a different level. He made C.J. Stroud look bad last week. And Malik Willis, I know he's played well in 2 games because Matt LaFleur has not given him too much to do as a quarterback or more than he's capable of doing at quarterback. But,
Brian Flores is going to have his defense really hold that run game and make Malik Willis pass.
Yeah. And Malik Willis is not going to be successful running the ball as much as he has been.
Yeah.
He was successful last week against Tennessee, but man, Tennessee, Will Levis also gave a game away again. Pick 6 and backers were up and they never looked back. Brian says he expects Jordan Love to play. I will say, even if Jordan Love plays, it's going to be a difficult game for the Packers because Brian Flores has that defense playing on another level. He's great at confusing quarterbacks, at confusing coverages. And what you see isn't always what you get when you look down the Vikings defense as a quarterback. So, and that's been trouble. Will offenses figure it out as the season goes on? I think that's possible. Coaches do figure out opposing teams' tactics. It's, everybody gets the film, everybody sees it. And at some point, somebody comes up with a fix, somebody comes up with a read that, might give them an insight to what Brian Flores is running. But up to this point, man, that Minnesota defense is incredible. And Sam Darnold, again, the Vikings aren't asking him to do too much. And Sam Darnold is, he's doing an outstanding job leading that offense. So they are a good team. We're going to see how good this weekend. Playing a division rival Packers in Lambeau Field. on the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. God, I can't talk. Well, we're out of time, and I'm getting to the point where I can't talk. So I think it's about time to hang up this week, Wanda. We are out of time.
Yep.
It's been fun as always, and we appreciate the fans who join us every Saturday.
Yeah,
and the
great
ones
questions.
Yep.
Really good
Oh, yeah,
questions.
great
and statements
comments.
here. Yeah, it's been really good.
And everybody who joins our broadcast during the week on the replay, we appreciate you also for spending an hour with us, taking an hour out of your day to spend with us. Everybody have a great week.
Great week, guys. Thank you.